everyone, me again. If you're new around here, my name's Alice and I make videos on affordable beauty and fashion, and today I wanted to have a chat about my custom eyeshadow palette. So this is something that I've been working on for a little while, and I've tried to make my kind of perfect everyday go-to palette. All the colours are in here are things that I've picked myself, the things that I really enjoy wearing, the colours that I find very flattering on me. There are a couple of shades missing that I would actually really like to put in this palette. I'll get to that at the end. Obviously I do just want to mention, like I said at the beginning, I focus on affordable beauty. Even though this palette is probably cheaper than if you got like a custom palette at MAC or something like that, this is still a really expensive way of buying eyeshadow. It's probably much better value to just go to Revolution and get one of their eyeshadow palettes for like £5 or £10. But that being said, this was a lot of fun to put together and I really enjoyed the process. And even though I do really love my neutrals, I don't really have one eyeshadow palette that has every single colour that I want in there. So let's talk about the palette. The actual palette itself, the empty palette, is by Revolution Pro. I think you can still get these on sale on the Revolution Beauty websites for £5 instead of £10. As you can see, the colour selection is on the pale side because I'm quite pale. When I wear dark colours it can look very dramatic very quickly, so there aren't that many like deep dark colours in here, and most of them are kind of pinks and neutrals as well, but there is a bit of a pop of colour in there. Obviously I will go through all the shades individually in just a moment, but I did kind of organise it in a specific way when I was putting it together. The top left corner here is my kind of spring section, so it's got like the pinkier tones, it's got the violet in there, and then in this section over here there's the summer colours, so they're a tiny bit warmer, and we've also got the pop of gold and the pop of blue in there. And then below that, this section is autumn. There's the slightly deeper colours, the rose golds and the really nice pretty golds that are beautiful to wear over the lid, and then the deeper colours on the bottom left, that's what I like to think of as the winter section of the palette. They're a bit more duskier, a bit more like evening wear, and I know that it's probably a little bit sad to divvy up your eyeshadows in that way, but that's just how I wanted to organise it, because that's kind of how I change up my eyeshadow looks during the year. Over here as well on the bottom right there's also two larger pans that just don't really like fit together with the rest of the shadows because they're a bit bigger, so I just tuck them in this corner. By the way, when I go through all the shades I'm going to go from top row to bottom, and I'm going to go from left to right. Not all of them have the shade names underneath, which is very annoying, but I've made a list on my phone of what I think all the colours are, so this video is probably going to be like 90% accurate. So this first shadow is by PRIMA. It's a really beautiful champagne colour, so I like to use this in the inner corner or underneath my brow bone. So this one doesn't have the shade name underneath, but I've narrowed it down to two. It's either called Pearly White or Crystallize. I'm pretty sure the actual name of this is Crystallize. When I look on the PRIMA website and I look at all the colours swatched, this looks like the shade Crystallize to me, but when I bought it on Fragrance Direct they called it Pearly White, so I'm not 100% sure, but whatever it is I'll leave the link to it in the description box below. Like I said, it's a really nice one to use in the inner corner under the brow bone, or just to tap in the middle of the lid if you want to really brighten up the eyes. You could probably use this as a highlighter as well, it's just the perfect colour for that. I really like this one. PRIMA eyeshadows, by the way, are a really nice quality. It's very soft to the touch, blends out really easily. The next one is by Revolution Pro. I use this all the time. So this came in a pack of refills called Base. I think there were 5 colours that came in that pack, and quite a few of them are in this eyeshadow palette. So this one is called Sufficient. This is just a matte shade that's a little bit lighter than my skin tone. I actually used this today to set my eye primer before I put the rest of the shades on. If you want to see the look that I'm wearing on my eyes right now, I just did it in my everyday makeup routine, so you'll see all the shades that I used in that video. But yes, I usually go in with this one before I put any other colours down. I really like to set my eye primer, it just gives a little bit of extra coverage, and it just makes the other shades a little bit easier to blend as well. So this one is another one that's absolutely essential for me. This next one is also from Revolution Pro. This is from their Aphrodite refill pack, and this shade is called Fascinated. In terms of performance, this one probably isn't the best. It could definitely do with being a bit more pigmented, but I wanted to keep it in the palette because I really like the colour itself. It's a very pale lilac colour. This would also be really nice in the inner corners as well and under the brow bone, and again could be substituted as a highlight if you've got a very pale skin tone. You can get an okay colour payoff from this one, but you do need to build it up a bit, and I don't find that, like, texture wise I enjoy it as much as some of the other shimmers in this palette, but it's still a really beautiful colour. If I find a similar colour from another brand and that's a bit better quality, then I might swap it out at a later date, but for now I'm perfectly happy to have this one. Next we have the colour Earthshine by Colourpop. This is a really beautiful and really unique shade. It is so pretty. It's a lilac-y colour, but it's a duochrome and it's got a really strong blue reflect to it. It looks so beautiful on the lid. This colour works really nicely with some of the pink matte shades that I've got in this palette. I have blue eyes and I find that it really complements my eye colour. It's just a really unique and beautiful shade, but it's still like safe enough to wear every day, if you know what I mean. That's kind of the theme for most of this palette, if I'm honest. But yeah, I really love the performance of Colourpop eyeshadows. There's quite a few of them in this palette actually, and it can be quite affordable to use Colourpop as well, especially if you're building an entire eyeshadow palette on the website, like per shade. It actually works out a pretty good value if you do it that way. The next shade is by Beautonomy. This colour is called Cupid and it's just a matte pink. I do love my neutral shades, but I really like to add pink to most of my eyeshadow looks, so for me this one is pretty essential. It performs really nicely, the colour payoff is really good, and yeah, I really enjoy wearing this one. This next one's from Colourpop. It's a little bit different to what I thought it would be. So when I ordered it on the website, I thought it was like a kind of dusky mauve colour. It's actually a little bit more warm toned than that. I'm sure most people wouldn't consider this a warm eyeshadow colour, but for me, because I don't wear a lot of warm eyeshadow, this looks a little bit warmer to me, but I still really like it. I still get use out of it. It's called Labyrinth and it's a really nice matte colour. If you're a big lover of neutrals, I think you'll get a lot of use out of this shade. The next shade is from Beautonomy. This is a really beautiful shimmery gold. It's called Golden Sugar. I really like this one. It's so beautiful all over the lid. I will say with Beautonomy shimmers, don't be tempted to kind of really rub your finger in them like you would with a Revolution eyeshadow or a Colourpop eyeshadow. The formula is a little bit different, so they are a bit more textured, but the fact that they are so just packed with texture and pigment is just what makes them so beautiful on the lid. They really sparkle, they really glisten. I really like this one. It's so pretty. It's a classic gold colour. Again, this is another one that's pretty much essential in my palette. The next one is another really basic neutral colour. This is from Colourpop again. It's called Wake Up Call. It's a really nice kind of matte sand colour. It's just a standard light neutral that you probably have in a lot of other palettes already. I know it's very basic, but I feel like everyone kind of needs a shade like this in their eyeshadow palettes because you can just build so many other looks around it. It's just a really wearable, really neutral colour. This one's a little bit warmer than some of the other matte shades in my palette, but it's not so warm that I would call it a warm toned colour, if you see what I mean. It's definitely bang on in the middle neutral. Next we have one of the very few pops of colour in the palette. This is by Colourpop. It's called HOWLIN with an N on the end. It's a matte lilac colour. It's a very light coloured shade, so I feel like with my complexion it works quite well. I think if you've got a deeper skin tone you might kind of struggle a bit with this one, but it's just so beautiful. I remember when I got the Kami MUA palette, there's a colour that's very similar to this in that palette, and when I used that palette, that lilac colour was the shade that I kept reaching for all the time, and that's why I wanted to pick this one. Next to that there is another matte pink, also from Colourpop. This one is called Say I Do. So this one is a little bit more wearable than the last shade I showed you, but it is still colourful. If you compare it to the other matte pink in here, which is by Beautonomy, it's definitely a little bit more paler, it's a bit more everyday wearable, but it's still got like enough colour in it for it to be interesting, if you see what I mean. I really love shades like this one. I just used it in the crease, but yeah, this is really pretty. Next to that we have a shimmery colour. This one goes so well with the last shade that I was showing you. So this is On the Fence by Colourpop. It's a light shimmery pink, Very, very basic. You'll see colours like this in a lot of eyeshadow palettes, I'm sure, but it's just such a wearable colour. I couldn't not include a shade like this in my palette. In the spring, I love this all over the lid. Sometimes I'll just like something like this in the inner corner to brighten up a look because it's still pretty pale. But yeah, colours like this, they're just so wearable. I love them. The next shade is another one that I'm actually wearing today. This is from Revolution Pro. It's also from the base refill pack. The shade is called Exceptional, and this is the colour that I kind of thought Colourpop Labyrinth would be. So just for reference, this one here is Colourpop Labyrinth, and this one here is by Revolution. So they look almost the same when they're in the pan, but they swatch really differently. Or at least to me, they swatch differently anyway. This one is Colourpop, and then this one is Revolution. They're like the worst swatches ever, but hopefully you get the idea. So the shade Exceptional is much more mauve, it's a bit dustier, it's a bit more neutral, and Labyrinth in comparison does look a bit warmer. So the Revolution one I wear all the time. It's one of my go-to everyday shades for the crease. I'm wearing it today. Labyrinth is one that I'll use for slightly warmer looks. Both of them I do really love, but the Revolution one I wear all the time. So that one is one of my most used everyday shades. And then next to it is another one from Beautonomy. This is another one of their really beautiful shimmery colours. This one is rose gold. I wouldn't call it a rose gold, I'd say it's more of a pink, but it is so beautiful. And it's got a little bit of a peach reflect to it as well, which makes it look a little bit warmer. But yeah, just like the other Beautonomy shimmers, don't go in too heavy-handed with this one because you don't need to, but this is a really beautiful shade for the summer. I really like this one. By the way, the great thing about the layout of this palette is that I've kind of put each shade next to other shades that work really well with it. So like that Beautonomy shade I just showed you, it works really well with this other Beautonomy shade above it. But yeah, it's just laid out in a way that makes creating an eyeshadow look really easy. I don't really have to put much thought into it, I just kind of know what goes with what. This is a matte shade, it's also from the Revolution Pro base refill pack. This one is called Equal. It's a very basic colour, but again, it just feels like it's really good to have a shade like this in an eyeshadow palette because you can do so much with them. But it's just like a simple matte brown. There's really not much to say about it. It is just a simple matte medium brown colour. Very neutral, very wearable. Works beautifully with some of like the golden shimmers that I have in here as well. And then next to it, this isn't one that I really want to keep. It's just one that I kind of have for the time being because I really wanted a blue in there. I don't reach for blue a lot if I'm honest, but I like the idea of just having a darker blue in the palette just so I've got an option of using it as a liner if I want. This one's by Revolution Pro. This is from the Aphrodite refill pack. You might remember that the other one I have from the Aphrodite refill pack, that's another one that I said the performance isn't that good. This one is unfortunately worse. So the shade is called Bewitch and it looks so beautiful in the pan, but like you can barely get any colour payoff, and especially once you blend it out it just kind of washes away. There's nothing really to it. I'm keeping it in there for the time being just in case I do fancy using a blue on the lid, but I think in the long term I will probably swap this for a darker navy colour with a bit more colour payoff. The next one has a much better formula and a much better payoff. This is Mr. Sandman by Colourpop. I think I wore this in my Colourpop haul video. It is just so beautiful. It's a shimmery, purpley, taupey, mauve-ish kind of colour with a bit of blue in there. It's very cool toned. I think this works really well with my complexion. It's such a beautiful shade, but the formula, oh my god, I absolutely adore this formula. It's really wet to the touch. It's just so pigmented and so beautiful. If you dip your finger in and then just kind of sweep it over the lid, you get a really intense payoff with very minimal effort. I really do like this one. I don't think there's really been a Colourpop shade that I haven't been like unhappy with. There's definitely been some that haven't been quite as good as others, but overall, I do think Colourpop are really, really good. And then the shade next to it, this is also from Colourpop, and it goes so beautifully with the last shade that I was showing you. This is a matte taupe called Chick Happens. Another very classic, neutral, wearable shade that is kind of essential for a lot of eyeshadow palettes because you can do so much with it. It's very, very cool toned, but I do like cool tones. I know that they're not as in fashion as like the warmer palettes at the moment, but I really love wearing cool tones. This one is really nice for like an evening smoky eye in the crease because you can build it up to be a bit more dramatic, especially mixed with some of the other like darker colours in this palette. It can look so beautiful. And then I've got a little bit of this next shade on today. I'm wearing it as an eyeliner. This is also from the Revolution Pro base refill pack. I really recommend that refill pack, by the way. So this is the shade Kosher, and it's a really beautiful matte chocolate brown. Every palette needs a matte chocolate brown because you can use it to line the eyes, you can use it to add a bit more depth to your look, to smoke it out a bit more. They're just so handy, they're so versatile. Like I said, I'm wearing it as an eyeliner today. It's a really nice formula. It's got a good amount of pigment to it, but it's not difficult to work with, and it's actually quite a warm, flattering chocolatey colour, and it looks really nice on the lid. I love wearing this. This one is by PRIMA. This is a really beautiful rose gold shimmer in Dusky Rose. I really like this one. It's so beautiful for this time of year. I know it looks quite similar to the previous rose gold kind of shade in this palette by Beautonomy, but once you swatch it, they are quite different. It is just that little bit deeper, a little bit warmer. It's so beautiful all over the lid. I really love it because I've got blue eyes and it kind of contrasts them and makes them pop a little bit. It kind of works for day or for night as well, whether you're doing like an everyday look or something a little bit darker and a bit more dramatic. It's just so beautiful. It's just a really classic shade. I love it. And then next to it is a foiled eyeshadow from Makeup Geek. This is called Grandstand. So I got this as a PR sample like a million years ago. I got it at a blogging event, but it's still going strong. I definitely have more Makeup Geek eyeshadows now if they were more readily available in the UK. I think they used to be available on Beauty Bay, but in those days I couldn't afford them. But I would definitely get more now if I could get them a bit more easily. I think I've heard on Twitter that they're having some kind of big revamp going on or something. So hopefully when all that's happened, they'll come back on Beauty Bay again because I'd love to support the brand. I'd love to support Marlena a bit more. But back to this shade. This shade is called Grandstand, and it is the most beautiful golden bronze warm shimmer that you've ever seen. The texture of it is so beautiful. It's so nice to wear at this time of year especially. It's a really classic autumnal colour. Yeah, I definitely want to get more of their foiled eyeshadows for sure. The next one is by Beautonomy, and I don't know quite how to pronounce it, but I think it's called MITHAI. This is a really beautiful shimmery gold colour as well. It looks very similar to the one from Makeup Geek before this, but it's actually a little bit more like of a yellowy gold rather than a rose copper gold, if you see what I mean. Like a kind of classic yellow dirty bronze, which doesn't sound very appealing, but trust me, it just is. This is definitely something that I'd wear with my more sandy matte colours, the classic browns, that kind of thing. This is actually a highlighter, but I love to wear this as an eyeshadow. It's a bit too dark for me to get away with as a highlighter, but I absolutely love this as an eyeshadow. It's such a beautiful colour. So this is by Revolution Pro, and this came in a pack of 3 called Sensational Lights. This particular shade is called Glorious, and it's a really beautiful shimmery pink colour. I love lighter pinks like this. I wear stuff like this on the lid all the time. I love pairing it with this other Revolution Pro shade. This one called Exceptional. I love wearing them together. The Exceptional shade in the crease and then this all over the lid. They look so beautiful. I do really like the formula of these Revolution Pro shadows and highlighters, by the way. Apart from the Aphrodite refill pack, I don't think that's very good, but everything else I do really love. I think I rave about Colourpop more just because they have a lot more selection. Like if you're looking for a really particular colour, I'd probably go to Colourpop. But yeah, in terms of value for money, if you're just starting out with an empty eyeshadow palette and you want to fill up all the colours yourself, I'd say have a look at Revolution first and just see what shades you can get there, and then fill in the gaps with Colourpop and Beautonomy, I think that's probably like one of the more affordable ways to go about it. So we're on the final row now, we're getting there. This shade is by Colourpop again, it's called Snake Eyes. I'm actually wearing it all over the lid today. It's another really beautiful cool toned colour. To me it looks a bit like a wet bronze with a little bit of taupe in there. This is the kind of colour that I've been wearing for years. Like ever since I was at uni, I've loved cool tone colours like this. They're just so flattering on me. This particular shade is so nice on the lid. I just threw this on with my finger today. You can watch this in my everyday makeup tutorial if you want, which was my recent video, but it just went on so easily. It blended out really nicely and it shows up so beautifully with like minimal effort. I really love this one. And then we've got another one from Beautonomy. This one is called Merlot. This one almost matches my nails actually. That's a nice coincidence. It's a beautiful shimmery purple colour with a little hint of red to it. So beautiful for autumn. Absolutely adore this. You could wear this as an eyeliner or all over the lid. Both would look really beautiful. I do really like this one. I'm also looking for like a kind of more red version of this. So something that's still a bit burgundy but just a little bit more on the red side but not too kind of warm. A lot of the ones I've looked at so far have got more of like a copper orangey reflect to them, but I don't want something that's too warm. I just want a slightly more red version of this, but I've been really struggling to find one. I'm thinking of doing another Colourpop order quite soon actually, because they've released a few new shades like that. You never know, I might be updating this palette very soon if I do a Colourpop order. But yeah, this shade is so beautiful. I really love it. And then there's another Beautonomy shimmer next to it. This one is called Gingerbread. This one is quite similar to MITHAI in that it's a kind of dirty bronze colour. This one is just that little bit more olive toned. It's a little bit more almost green but not quite. It's a really nice shimmer colour. Then there's Made to Last by Colourpop. This is another one of my very many matte mauve transition colours. It's just a little bit darker. On me, this is one that I would use to maybe darken up a look a little bit, maybe smoke it out towards the outer edges. Just because I'm so pale, it does look quite dark on me. On other people, this would probably be like a nice normal crease colour. And then there's Pretty Cruel by Colourpop. This one is a really interesting shade because it's like, it's almost matte, but it's not. It's got these little gold sparkles in it. This one is really nice in the crease in autumn and winter. If you really love your burgundy eye looks, your wine coloured eye looks, you will really love this shade. And it goes really beautifully with the shimmer from Beautonomy called Merlot. Like if you put this Colourpop one in the crease and then this Beautonomy one all over the lid, it's such a beautiful look. And then for the last two colours in the palette, there's one here and then there's one in this corner. This one is one of my favourite everyday shades to just throw all over the lid. This one is by HEMA. It's one of their eyeshadows in the shade Pearl. It basically just fell out of its packaging one day, which is when I discovered that it was magnetic. So I've just put it in here, but it's such a beautiful classic gold colour. It goes with so many eye looks. You could wear this with like a cool toned look or a warm toned look, whatever you wanted. It's one of my go-to shades. Sometimes I just wear this on its own without anything in the crease or anything like that. I can just kind of throw it on the lid and then fuse it all out with a softer brush, and it just kind of works. It's very shimmery, very reflective. It looks really beautiful on the lid. It just kind of brightens up the eye. And then the final shade is by KIKO. So I don't know if these are actually supposed to fit in like the larger empty magnetic palettes like the ones I have. I think they're supposed to go in like KIKO's own little magnetic palettes. The magnet does feel a little bit kind of weaker than a lot of the other shades that I have in here. So at some point I might just get like a sticker magnet and chuck it on the back. But for now it seems to be staying in the palette completely fine. This is one of their high pigment eyeshadows. This is the shade 46 and the shade is called Matte Mauve, and it is what it says on the tin, you know, it's a matte mauve colour. Really beautiful in the crease. Again, one of my go-to everyday shades. Really enjoy using this one. Very cool toned, which I like. And yeah, it's just a very classic, very wearable shade. It's very similar to Chick Happens by Colourpop, but this one is a little bit lighter. I don't think most people would probably need both of them in the same palette because they're that similar, but this one is just a little bit lighter, which for me makes it a little bit easier to wear because, again, you know, vampire pale over here. And those are all the colours in my custom eyeshadow palette. I know a lot of them are probably quite similar. Most people watching this would find a few shades that are quite similar and wouldn't need to buy both and have both in their palette, but I just kind of know what I like. There's a particular kind of colour scheme that I stick to, and I tend to gravitate towards that. Like I said in the video, I don't think it's completely perfect just yet. There's definitely a few shades that I'm looking for at the moment, so I'm after a shimmery navy colour. I'd really like a shimmery kind of burgundy shade that's a little bit more red, and I'd also like some more olive shimmers as well. But apart from that, I'm actually really happy with the palette, and even if I just keep it the way it is right now, this is still something that I wear on an everyday basis. This is something that I use quite a lot. I have just used this in my everyday makeup routine, which you might have seen last week. If not, I'll have the link in the description box. But yeah, that's everything. I really hope you've enjoyed listening to me talk about my eyeshadow palette. If you're new around here, consider subscribing. I make new videos every Sunday at 9 AM and sometimes on a Wednesday as well if I can get my act together. If you enjoyed listening to me talk about eyeshadow for however long this video is, like 15 minutes, half an hour, however long, then give this video a thumbs up so I know to make more stuff just like this. And that's everything from me. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!